days. I mean, it's just like it's like
Yeah,
it's like
really well.
well, it's like saying, you know, it's a statement of aspiration rather than reality,
Right.
and it's good not to confuse those two things.
Yeah. When was that written?
Moshe Feinstein, so somewhere in the last 50 years.
Oh, my
He died
goodness.
about 20 years ago.
That gives one pause.
Yeah,
All right.
I mean that's because if you're not, yeah.
It does. I mean, Sarah, all who saw her recognized her purity and innocence. I mean, that I don't think it was like that for Avimelech and for the Pharaoh.
No.
They saw her and they said, "I want some of that."
Yes, that's right, and it's so absurd, and yes, and they got it. I mean, they got more with the bargain. They got sexually transmitted infections, as we know. So,
Right.
so
They got the clap.
they got the clap, and maybe gonorrhea in Avimelech's case.
That
So,
was hysterical.
so, I don't know where you get that from.
It's the same commentary that said that because of the flood, the fossils have been so mixed up
Right.
that we can no longer date.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Look, I don't. You know, you can't begrudge them their ideals, but I just think it's not a good way. I mean, it's not a good way to approach women or children to tell yourself stories about their essential nature that just aren't true. 'Cause, yeah. God, the art scroll commentary is a kick.
Mhm.
All right, let's see.
Yes. What else? Leader.
Yeah,
So, I mean, the mission to find a wife for Isaac. I mean, this is just a great story. I mean, who doesn't love a love story?
It is a great story, and it's a great story because it's like it's a journey too. You know,
Yeah.
It just, you read it and it just goes because you're like, oh, this is exciting.
Yeah.
We're heading out on
Right.
an adventure, and we're meeting this strange and exciting woman, and
right.
her
Yeah,
family
this is a nice narrative.
inviting us in, and yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it was like it's a fun read.
Right, and
You
yeah,
know?
a lot of portions don't give you that, but this one is a nice read. Yeah, and a love story.
And
It
then
does-
Eliezer's test is a moral one.
Right.
You know, that he's looking, his test is, you know, not, will she have a great rack, but will she
No,
Right.
it's is she going to be
Be kind
inherently
be kind?
thoughtful,
Good.
compassionate, kind, generous,
Right.
hospitable?
Right.
Yeah,
And I love actually that
without being asked.
yes,
Really, you know.
Yeah, and I like that Judaism actually in this case, I like that the rabbinic tradition backs up the importance of that kind of that be the criteria for a great woman, because it does say what I was talking about before, that Eliezer erred by excluding the possibility that a woman who couldn't walk or was blind could be that woman, because one of those women too could have been a great wife for Isaac,
Or,
because they could have the spiritual qualities that were necessary. So that's nice. But it was important that I do want to stop bringing up trashy points, but the rabbis and the texts provide a lot of them. And one of the things he also says is that no man has known her, and she's a virgin, and no man has known her. And
That's pretty big in the Bible.
no, it is, but get this.
Yeah,
The rabbinic commentary is that there's a reason why he says it twice.
yeah.
And he says because the Canaanite women, or a lot of the women had creative ways. They wanted to preserve their virginity technically,
Mm-hmm.
but they had creative ways of being promiscuous without violating.
yeah, I noticed that they say that twice, and I wondered about that.
Yeah, so that's why. So they're saying not only is she a virgin, but she also hasn't
She
done.
didn't mess around.
Yeah, I think
she right, like whatever. We
it's
don't
a
have
reference
go
to
into those.
it's a reference to buggery.
Right.
So I assume it is.
Oh yeah.
So you know, it's just.
Like, I mean, Prince Charles wasn't allowed to marry anyone who didn't know a man either. So,
That's true.
I mean, that's the way it is for kings. You're not allowed to.
Really?
I mean, he would have been happier if he could have married Sarah Bowles, or who was it?
Sarah Parker Bowles.
Or whoever, the woman that he really
Right.
loved. But, you know, he had to marry the virgin.
Right.
Oh, and is that why? Right, and the Duke of York, who couldn't marry Wallace Simpson, he had to abdicate his throne
because
she was
divorced.
divorced.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Well-
they searched far and wide for a virgin, and
Right.
when they found Diana.
I do wonder what the what the preoccupation with that was, because
Well, there'll be no invidious comparisons.
they were worried that the invidious comparisons as
Well,
in
that's
she
the
would
advantage that I always see.
That's
I
not.
think that's,
She can never say, "Oh,
No, that's a problem.
Joey really knew how to."
you know, it's weird. Is that a problem?
I think
no,
that's an advantage to marrying a virgin.
I
You don't
mean,
get
I think
invidious
that-
comparisons.
No.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Trust me,
Okay.
I'm on the same wavelength
Okay.
as you.
Okay. Good.
But there's this whole purity movement that's really huge and growing fast in America with super conservative Christians.
Right.
And they are basically getting their daughters and sons too to pledge a life of purity and to pledge that they won't have any kind of physical sexual contact with anyone until their wedding day, and that their first kiss will be on their wedding day, and a lot of them won't hold hands beforehand. And I was thinking, what are these poor kids going to do if they're 19 or 20 and they get married, probably to someone they've known for 6 weeks or whatever,
Right.
and they say I do and go to kiss each other and find out on the wedding night that they have absolutely zero chemistry.
Yeah.
And
Do you seriously think two people who love each other, let's assume that they love each other, can't work out sex?
well, I mean, I don't know. So do you think that they can work it out? I mean, think about arranged marriages also. Like,
Yeah.
in parts of the world, like India, where for a long time, traditionally, they would just set two people up who had never met before.
Yeah.
And I wonder what, percentage of the time it works out fine.
Well, I gotta say, as a man, even the bad sex is good. I mean,
Well, let me drop some science on all of you, because I really feel like I have strong feelings about this, so that makes it feel like science to me. I would never marry a virgin, and I've said this before.
Neither would I.
And it's not
I
just.
would.
And
I would totally. I'd be there.
I'm totally with you.
Now I would.
I believe in experience.
I believe in experience, and I'll tell you this. And
Figuring out who the hell you are.
I
and what the
believe
hell
in
you
purity
like
for her.
No,
For her.
but
Yes.
I'll tell you. There's reasons, and one of them is that, first of all, she's a human being, and I want her to have those comparisons. I want her to have had sex with at least a couple people beforehand, because otherwise we're going to be 10 years into the marriage,
No
and she's
shit.
a human being, and she's going to go, shit. Even if we
She's
are in
gonna-
love, I
she's
want to know
gonna
what
say,
else is
"I
out there.
wonder."
Absolutely.
I wonder.
Absolutely. And she's had sex with other people beforehand, a few. I mean, she doesn't have to have sex
Don't you
with
think she's
the debate team.
devalued if she's been known by other
No.
guys before you?
No.
I don't.
That they plow
No.
her with their plow? That doesn't bother you?
It makes it. I just want to know that they treated her with respect, but I don't even need to know that. It's not my
Let's say
problem.
they totally dissed her.
Well, I don't like that for her, because I don't want her.
Because
And
he
you walk
wants
into
to.
a room and there are like three guys.
Joey
who've
wants to be able
been
to
with your
protect
old
people
lady.
retroactively.
Yes.
But beyond that, I can understand wanting
Right.
your partner to be someone who you can look at and say, all right, you've had your own experiences, you know who you
Yeah.
are, what you like, and
Yes.
you can tell me. And that said, a virgin could potentially be able to say that too. I have no experience, but let's figure this out, and here's what I like and what I don't like. But I feel like I've heard women, specifically women who have been interviewed, who have come sort of out of the purity movement, and they come out of it and they say, I am 10 years behind other people my age.
Right.
And I have a huge, people who, the people who realize this is not for them.
Right.
And they come out of it and, they're 20 or 25 or whatever, and they're like, I have a huge, a huge, mountain of learning to scale out
Yeah.
of me. And I'm just...
They feel like there's a lot of cock they've got to have? Is that what you're saying?
It's not.
I think it's there's physical experience, and then there's emotional experience,
Yes.
and there's psychological experience, and there's spiritual experience, and psycho-spiritual experience, and it all goes together.
With intercourse. They need a lot of
It
intercourse
goes together
with a
with-
lot of different guys.
No, I mean, it goes
to
together with
catch up.
sexuality, though. Absolutely. I mean, that's part of how we learn about who we are as human beings and how we relate to others. And
Isn't
it's
that a
part of
purity wristband that you've got on right
this
now?
is a rubber band for my
Isn't
hair.
that like a
Wishful
symbol of the
thinking.
purity movement?
Wishful thinking.
The blue is pure as the afternoon sky. No,
And
but
maybe
they're going to have
think
to
it's
want
a
to
fairy
know what
tale.
it's like to sleep with other men. If they haven't, if it's not about lots of sex, and I mean,